Welcome to 10-Minute Tips for Maximum Health and Wellness. In 2007, Ari Meisel, our guest today, was diagnosed with Crohn's disease. Crohn's is an incurable disease of the digestive tract. Ari's case was severe and required over a dozen daily medications and several hospital visits. After reaching a personal low point in the hospital, Ari decided he would do everything in his power to strengthen his then very weak body. Through a combination of yoga, nutrition, and natural supplements and rigorous exercise, he was able to fight back the symptoms of Crohn's until he was finally able to suspend his medication altogether. Eventually, Ari was declared free of all traces of this supposedly incurable disease, and he went on to compete in Ironman France in June of 2011. Ari has since spoken at seminars and regional TED Talks about his struggle against a seemingly insurmountable opposition. He's a successful and serial entrepreneur. He's the host of the Less Doing podcast on iTunes, and he joins us today to share his wisdom for health and wellness with you. Welcome, Ari. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much, Brad. Appreciate being here.
Absolutely. Well, I'd love for you to share in 10 minutes or less, what is your best advice that people can do to maximize their health and wellness?
Sure. So I actually, I come at this from a slightly different angle than a lot of people. And as you gave in my bio, I'm really a productivity kind of geek. And my productivity came as a result of basically I had no other choice. I was so sick from the Crohn's disease that if I didn't figure out a way to be more efficient and effective, there was just no way I was going to be able to get anything done in my life at all. So what happened with me was that I realized in pretty short order that the nutrition and the supplements and the fitness aspects of what was going on with my illness and my body were actually pretty straightforward. And I've replicated my results in dozens of other people with Crohn's at this point. The hard part, and the more I get into this, the more I believe that it's the biggest part, is stress. And I really believe that stress is a component that just has such a havoc-wreaking effect on people's lives. And it's not just an opinion. I mean, stress is an inflammatory component. There's no question. And everybody has stress of some kind. And when it becomes chronic, it can quite significantly contribute to chronic inflammation, which can be in the form of Crohn's disease. It could turn into obesity, diabetes, all sorts of other illnesses that have an inflammatory component to them.
Right.
So after I'd figured out those other elements, and again, I say that those were pretty straightforward because I can tell somebody what to eat, and I can tell them what supplements to put in their mouth, and I can tell them what exercises to do, and they can do all of that. But telling somebody manage stress is not, it's just way too nebulous. So
Yeah.
My response to that was to create a new system of productivity, which I would call less doing, as in less doing, more living. And without going into the entire system of less doing, which, the goal of everything I do is to try to help people save time so that they can free up their minds and be more effective and stress less. The overarching methodology that I apply to everything I do, whether it's productivity, business problems, relationship problems, and health problems, is to optimize, automate, and outsource everything in your life. And I want to explain that because I think that that's a really great way for people to approach this and to help with what's going on.
Yeah, please do.
So first of all, it's a very important order: optimize, automate, outsource. And the reason for that is that anybody can outsource anything pretty much nowadays, and you can do it very cheaply. For $5, you can go to a website like Fiverr and have somebody halfway across the world create a new social media strategy for you, or a graphic design, or design an ebook. I mean, that's easy. The problem with outsourcing first, which a lot of people do, is that it's effectively like sweeping the dirt under the rug. You're not really identifying the problem. You're not making the problem more efficient. And in a lot of cases, you can make the problem worse because all you're doing is distancing yourself from the possibility of making it better. So it begins with optimization. And what optimization means is look at the problem. Stop and look at the problem. Everybody has too much going on in their lives. Everybody that I talk to every day tells me that they are overwhelmed. That is the word that I hear every single day: overwhelmed. And a lot of that overwhelm comes from the fact that there's just so much stuff going on. We have not evolved biologically as quickly as we have technologically. And there's simply no way for our human meat to keep up with all of the technological inputs that we're getting. And not just technology. We got phone calls and emails, sure, but you have people asking you to do things, and responsibilities, and travel, and just all sorts of stuff going on. So the first thing is to stop and actually look at the processes that you're going through on a regular basis. And that's about optimization. And that's it, for me, optimization is a lot of it is about tracking. So
Okay.
you can track everything you do nowadays. You can track your blood. You can track the number of steps you've taken. You can track the emails you've sent, the phone calls you've had, the how often you have sex, what you eat. Everything we do can now be tracked, and most of it can be tracked without any effort at all. Sometimes that's enough. And, a really good example that applies to anybody is sleep tracking. Download a $3 app to your phone called Sleep Cycle and put it on your bed, and it will tell you how well you slept that night, and you may be able to recognize patterns. But even if you don't, they've shown in studies that just being aware of your quality of sleep the night before will have a effect on positively or negatively on your cognitive performance the next day.
That's amazing. Yeah, I've actually got Sleep Cycle on my phone, and I can attest to that it works fantastic. So you've got these. So tracking alone, I can see how that helps you optimize, because once you're aware of what you're doing and where your inefficiencies are, it's probably a lot easier to begin to optimize just the things you're doing, just because they're front of mind, right?
Just because you know what they are. Yeah, exactly.
Right. So then,
and you, sorry, go ahead.
No, well, I was going to say, so then that leads, how does that lead into the automation?
Right. Okay. So once you optimize, so you've identified the process, now you can look for ways to automate. And the reason that I go to automation second is because, first of all, technology is just growing or expanding at such an amazing rate that you can automate things even 6 months ago that had to be done by a person. So automation is really in the vein of set it and forget it. So look at that process, look at that optimized process, and think of the things that you can do to automate it. Now, there's definitely technological ways to do this. We look at things like IFTTT and Zapier, which are two of my favorite websites ever, which help you automate those hundreds of processes that you go through on a regular basis that take you 30 to 60 seconds each. And things as basic as tweeting a message and putting it on Facebook and LinkedIn also. It can do that for you. If you make a sale on PayPal, then add that to a line in a Google Docs spreadsheet. If there's a new feed item on my blog, then send an email to my graphic designer that they have to create a new image. Like that kind of stuff that takes 30 seconds or 45 seconds but requires that constant mental gear shifting and just zaps your willpower and zaps your energy. But then it goes to physical stuff too. Go to Amazon Subscribe and Save and subscribe to paper towels that come every month automatically. So you never have to worry about shopping for things like paper towels, toilet paper, toothbrushes, dog food, all sorts of non-perishable items that you can just get delivered automatically without spending any thought on it. And even something as basic as a slow cooker. Put a recipe in the slow cooker in the morning, and when you come home at night, you have a home-cooked, healthy meal. I mean, those are the kinds of things that you can think about where what can I automate that I don't have to deal with or don't have to think about for the rest of the day. And then if anything is left over, and sometimes, a lot of times now, there really isn't, that's when you look at outsourcing it to a specialist or a generalist. And that could be a virtual assistant or a graphic designer halfway around the world, or it could be a dog walker or somebody that actually does something physically in your home.
Right. I just hired recently a personal, a personal chef, and
Awesome.
yeah, sorry about that, I'm coughing. But I just hired a personal chef, and she doesn't, she's a great chef. She's not a gourmet, but she cooks, she preps the meals, she brings them to my house, a couple meals a day, and it's simply so that I don't have to do it. And I look at it as I'm not paying her for, the $15 to $20 an hour she charges to cook my food. I'm buying I'm buying my own time at a discount. By paying her.
You're not just buying your own time. As far as I'm concerned with food, you either pay for it now or you pay for it later. And what I mean is that you either pay for good quality food now or you pay for medical insurance later and medical bills later.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So this theory, or not really theory, but this practice of the optimize, automate, and outsource, the overall effect then of your health would be what?
Well, the overall effect is just that you basically free up that headspace. You free up your brain resources to think about and do the things that you really want to do. And that leads to less stress, because the beauty of my methodology about this optimize, automate, outsource is that you're able to handle situations much better. And even if the quote unquote emergency comes up, maybe you don't have the solution right then and there, but you know that you'll be able to find it because you get into the practice of constantly looking for better ways to do things.
Oh, yeah, that's so brilliant. And interestingly, the other folks that we've been interviewing, the health experts, have all said some very similar things, which is stress is, one of the stress and chronic inflammation are two of the biggest health killers out there, and everybody has a somewhat different way of dealing with this. I love your approach. It's very fresh, it's very practical, and it's very different than what a lot of folks do. They simply go after the health. You seem to be going after much more of the root cause of that, like heading it off at the pass before it ever gets out of hand, and implementing a process to make everything go smoother. And this, I imagine, this helped you with your Crohn's disease quite a bit, and this is how you developed your own cure for this incurable disease.
Yeah, and honestly, I think that is why I can now have not a perfect diet, and I don't. And part of that is the fact, and it's not, I'm not making excuses for myself, but we have 3 small kids. We have a very crazy household. It is very challenging a lot of times for me to eat the way that I would really like to, but I'm able to get away with a lot more now because stress is handled, and I don't have those situations 100 times a day where something pisses me off and I immediately feel it in my stomach. It doesn't happen. And everybody can relate to that. Everybody has that where something bothers them or upsets them, or they feel guilty and they feel that sort of like tightness in their stomach.
Yeah, I can completely relate, as I'm sure most of our listeners can. Well, Ari, this has been fantastic. It's been great advice. It's some advice that most people won't hear in other places. But if people do want to get a hold of you, if they want to find out more about Less Doing, where do they go for more information on you?
The best place is to go to lessdoing.com, where I have everything, my blog, my podcast, and my books and all that. But I also have my big event coming up in May, which is lessdoinglive.com, where people can actually come for 3 days in New York and walk away with a more effective lifestyle.
Perfect. Well, I encourage everybody to check that out. I know I will be. And Ari, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.